The human mind can be compared to a computer. The behavioral approach is not enough to study it. Judging a person's thoughts based only on their behavior is wrong. It requires deep analytics. It's like a code where input data and the processing are important. By investigating the fact that the structure of thought is something difficult, psychologists refuse to study only behavior. The scientific approach better explains mental processes which led to the cognitive revolution.
Actually, the cognitive revolution happened back in the time of the sapiens. This revolution is about new ways of thinking and communicating between 70 and 30,000 years ago. The most common theory, the theory of Noam Chomsky, claims that random genetic mutations changed the internal settings of the brain, and sapiens were lucky to gain the ability to think, communicate, and imagine. This is called mutation of the tree of knowledge. Some mutations are described like a change only in one cell of the body. Such changes are not inherited, but are transmitted to new cells of the same organism.
However, there are mutations that are passed down from generation to generation. They are found in gametes, that is, in germ cells. Beneficial mutations through natural selection may increase in frequency from one generation to the next. In our case, we will talk about the second type of mutation. One day, a piece of human DNA malfunctionated and the huge long process of transferring this DNA to their children began. More important than the theory of random mutation is Steven Pinker's theory, which argues that evolutionary pressures have forced humans to develop complex communication.
But how did it happen that only for Homo sapiens social interactions plays the greatest role? Sapiens love to gossip and even fantasize. If at first the sapiens discussed about their last hunt, then their discussions progressed into stories about predators that they hadn't seen before. This is how beliefs in gods, myths, and legends were born. This is the legacy of the cognitive revolution. People who lived in the same climatic conditions, with the same physical abilities, began to create fundamentally different imaginary realities, values, and norms.
But would this have happened if there had been only a random gene mutation behind it? In order for mutated DNA to have been saved for an entire species, it takes a lot of time and romantic connections, if you know what I mean. It means that one chance cannot change the logic of the existence of the currently dominant species.
Now let's talk about physical changes. One day, a man stood on two legs and realized that this way he could be able to see the environment better. It has resulted the complicating of the brain structure and increasing its mass, what happened gradually. The increase of the volume of the skull from 900 to 1400 centimeters over millions of years indicates the constant development of the brain. That was the result of evolution. After all, the brain absorbs 25% of energy and it is at rest. For example, over 2 million of years, the brain volume of our ancestors has more than doubled, which confirms the evolutionary process.
However, it wasn't for long. After the development of erudition and the emergence of a sense of comfort, human brains began to get smaller. Because later, the sapiens did not have to constantly fight for their lives. They could leave the house, harvest wheat, and feed the cattle. In the modern world, a normal person has a large, extremely developed and complex prefrontal cortex. An area of the brain associated with high cognitive abilities has become more elongated, and this is in effect that person learned walking on two legs. Is this the result of a successful genetic mutation? No. In this case, the DNA change laid down only the root of a huge and lengthy process.
Even if the cognitive revolution was born due to a genetic mutation, it gained real power only by evolution in millions of years. Social interactions, speech development, changes in the structure of our brain and body, all this has been happening for a long time. Without these factors, we would not have become who we are today. Imagine if our ancestors had never learned how to cook food on fire, perhaps only raw foods would be on the menu of modern restaurants. Although maybe that's why we still like low roast steak. The genes make themselves felt.